channel. My name is Jochebed, and on this channel, like I often say, we study the Word of God, we simplify it and make it part of our daily living so that we can grow as a Christian, right? We're not just Sunday Christians. And I'd like to welcome you back to the second series of the Women of the Bible. In the last series, we spoke about Mary, mother of Jesus. And today we're talking about a woman who is a risk taker. She's so buoyant and so extraordinary. I felt the series will not be completed if we do not talk about her, and it's also not a surprise that every single one of her children was used by God to do great and amazing thing. And yes, of course, I am talking about Jochebed, the mother of Moses. We know the story of how the children of Israelite ended up in Egypt, and they became slave because the king of the land at the time became scared of them. Like, they were becoming very prosperous, very successful, very strong, and he felt if these people joined with the enemy to fight with Egypt, they were going to definitely win. So the best thing was to tame them and to curb them, and that was what he did. And for so many years, 430 years to be exact, the children of Israelite were struggling under the pressure and the pain of being enslaved by this king. And they called out to God, and God, in his own way, you know how he does, made a way of escape. And the way of escape is what we're talking about. This woman lived at a time when the king gave an order that any male child that was born should be killed. Like, just right, imagine women having babies and the babies just being snatched away from them and killing them just because he's a male boy. And you can imagine the woman that keeps giving back to a baby boy, or someone that had twins boys. Like, I can't just fathom the pain and the horror and the anxiety of the time. It's not even a time where we cannot do baby scan and gender knowledge and whatever. This was a time where they didn't even know whether they were gonna have a boy or a girl. So the woman is living in anxiety and just all through the 9 months, not knowing whether this is a child she's going to keep or this is a child that was going to die. And Jochebed, however, how she could do it, had a baby and had a son that was eventually named Moses. But the good thing about the story was how she was able to keep the child for 9 months, deliver with nobody knowing, and then able to keep the child 3 months after she had delivered. Nobody knew that she had a child. That is just an extraordinary feat on its own, in a place where they live communally and everybody knows what is going on. I want to read from Exodus chapter 2 verse 2 all the way to verse 4 so that we understand the background as to the characteristics that we'll be talking about today. So it says, "So the woman conceived and bore a son, and when she saw that he was a beautiful child, she hid him 3 months." Verse 3 says, "But when she could no longer hide him, she took the ark of a bushel for him, dabbed it in asphalt and peat, put the child in it, and laid it in the reed by the river bank. And she asked his sister to stand afar off to know what will be done to him." Now, let's break this down. First, the fact that she could, carry the pregnancy without no one knowing and then going ahead to keep the child for 3 months. This woman was a risk taker. She was not the kind of woman that would bow down just for the fun of it because your order was given. This was a woman who was ready to do anything to protect her family and her child. Like, she was the kind, she's the kind of mom that doesn't need to say anything. She just look at you from the room and you get the message, right? Like, she's very stable and very very firm when it comes to decision making or anything that pertains to her family. She will go the extra mile. She will do what needs to be done. She's not the kind of woman that will just sit down and hope things just happen. I believe so many women at this time will have given up, like, whatever, like they would just, is a male child and this one is going to die, because there was no other child that was saved in that period except for Moses. And that we know, God had a hand in it, but the mom also was walking in the plan of God to make that happen. She did not let her child die, all because she made a decision this boy was not going to die. Like, I'm not going to give up my son to be killed. Second of all, we see how creative she is, and we know how creative we women can be. Just watch a woman in the kitchen, let her bring out all the ingredients and the spices and everything, and she will just dab it together and just produce a meal. Or just watch her work in the house. She's doing the laundry, she's cooking, she's cleaning, she's keeping an eye on the kids. We know how we can be when we are in our zone. We know how we are when we're just doing our thing, especially when you're doing something you love. You just can function with ease, like no stress, no pain. You're just doing it so easy. But we see how this woman manufactured, so to say, a basket that did not sink to keep her child in, because of course she decided, okay, I'm just gonna put him on the waters, but she was also very strategic about it. Like, that would be my next point, but before we go into that, we see how she I actually researched the things that she used, like the asphalt and the peat to build the bushel, and I realized that those things are today being used by the Navy forces and shipping companies to mask the metal which the boat or the ship is built with, so that it's prevented from rusting and sinking. It keeps it durable, and I'm so surprised, like, she used that in the Bible and we are still using it today. Like, it's still prominent right now. It's so amazing to see that. And she was so, like I said, she was very strategic in her thought. Not only she putting the baby in the water was strategic, and she did it when the daughters of Pharaoh comes to swim or to bathe. So she knew exactly where she wanted the child to be. She knew exactly who she wants to see the baby. She knew what time they usually go have their bath, and then she placed her child where they could see the baby. So she didn't just throw the baby on the water, because mind you, this was the sea. We know how the alligator, the mosquitoes, the fishes and anything else could have been going on the water. Thank God the baby was safe, but she also made sure there was an end plan. She was very, very strategic. Like, I'm not just giving my babies to the water, I'm putting my baby in the water where he could be rescued. And that was what happened eventually. The baby was rescued. And we see also that she did not only just put the baby there and just abandon whatever happens. She positioned Miriam, who is her first daughter, there to see what happened to the child. Like, keep an eye on your brother. Make sure nothing happens to him. Make sure he is rescued. And it's not surprising that Miriam was there when the daughter of Pharaoh found the baby. To, like, oh, can I go find you like a caretaker or like a nanny for the child so that they can take care of the baby? I am really amused that worked. Why? This is a woman that lived in the palace. She had so many servants, and I'm sure she had so many Hebrew servants as well. But the fact that she could give the child away to someone to keep for her is just God doing what he alone can. And Miriam went ahead to go call his mom to come take care of the baby for the princess. And getting paid to take care of our own child. Like, how? How? Exodus chapter 2 verse 7. It says, then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and call a nurse for you from the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for you? And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, go. So the maiden went and called the child's mother. Then Pharaoh's daughter said to her, take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wage. So the woman took the child and nursed him. Like, they paid her to nurse her child. That was just amazing. That was just gracious God, like just giving her back her child, because she had the faith to trust God that God was going to keep the child for her. So Jochebed was a risk taker. We know women, well, when we allow ourselves to shine, we are risk takers, right? She was very strategic in her plans. She wasn't careless. She wasn't like, oh, whatever just happened, I'm just gonna put a baby here. No, she was very strategic, planned it, what time to put her there, who is gonna see the child. And we see how creative she was, you know, creating the basket so that the child would not sink. She didn't just put him in a bowl or a plastic or whatever. She ensured that whatever instrument she was going to use to put the baby in the river was safe and secure and was worthwhile. And lastly, I want to say she went ahead to empower her kids. Like, let this be a reminder that we need to empower our kids. We need to empower any people, any child, any younger generation looking up to you. You don't have to be like a mom yet. You will have like youngsters, teenagers, cousins and nephews looking up to you, who you can impart their lives. You will see how Jochebed, she empowered Miriam to be a decision maker. She made sure she was responsible for her younger brother. And we see in the long run, well, after some 80 kind of years, that each and every one of these children of this woman became huge instrument in the hand of God. Moses became the one that led them out of Egypt. Aaron, his brother, happened to be the spokesman and the first high priest that the children of Israelite ever went to have. He was one that stood between the children of Israel and God, and speaking to God on their behalf. And Miriam, we know, went on to be a prophetess. Like, I am not surprised that God made use of the 3 children that this woman had. Their mom paid the price. Their mom sowed the seed. And that should let you know that whatever decision you're making, whatever steps you're taking right now, your children are watching, the people around you are watching, and you can just impact lives just by being you, just by living to be the woman that God has created you to be. And that is the whole essence of this series, that we understand the power and the grace and the value that God has placed upon us as women. Let us not just sit back and wait for things to happen. Let us go out there and make things happen. And I hope this video has been encouraging. I hope you have learned 1 or 2 things. Please take the time to go read the stories of this women. Don't just take my word for it. Like, go back into the Bible and read about them, learn about them, and see who they are. You might even learn some things that I have not found. And please, I would love to read that. Put it in the comment section. I'm reading it. I'm loving hearing from you. And I really appreciate you for checking out this video. I didn't greet you before I started. If you're a first-time viewer, I'm so glad to have you here. Please join the family. Let us grow together. And if you're coming back, of course, thank you for coming back. Subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Have a wonderful day. Bye.